What you're about to hear is an analysis of one of the most insidious mechanisms of social control operating in modern America, a system that deliberately creates chaos for ordinary people while maintaining iron discipline for those who might challenge real power. The concept being discussed is called anarcho-tyranny. This is about understanding how ruling classes use selective law enforcement and manufactured disorder to maintain control while appearing to uphold democratic institutions.
Our countries have been invaded by outsiders, by foreigners, by aliens. People don't like that language. It's what they are. They are from other lands. They speak other languages. They worship strange gods. They look different, act different, have different customs, different foods. They are foreigners. They are outsiders. They are aliens. They would be unrecognizable to the people that founded this country, that fought for its independence, that fought for its union, that fought for its freedom, its expansion. They'd be unrecognizable. They are foreigners. They are outsiders. And they are unwanted. Who decided that Minnesota, which was previously one of the best states in the country, highest reported rates of happiness, best healthcare, best education, whose idea was it to dump Somalians into Minnesota? You look at our beautiful country, national parks, skyscrapers, natural and man-made wonders. You look at the country that we had. You look at the videos of Detroit, of Chicago, of New York, and LA. Whose idea was it to invite the whole world here? And they come here, and these people have all kinds of problems. They're rude. They're inconsiderate. They don't assimilate. They don't like us. They don't respect us. They don't see themselves as Americans. They help each other out at our expense. They have disdain for us, and the police, the government will do nothing about it. They won't remove the people. They won't arrest the people. They won't lock them in jail. They will not punish them. And instead, what is happening increasingly is when white people stand up for themselves, verbally, they get arrested. That's what Shiloh Hendricks did. She stood up for herself verbally. First Amendment protected speech. We do still live in America, don't we? You may not like what she said, but she got in an altercation. She used some choice words. She's now going to jail. Not the Somalians giving her a hard time, a young lady with her child at the park. In Scotland, the young 14-year-old girl is getting arrested, not the migrants making her uncomfortable. And there's a word for this. It's called anarcho-tyranny.
The concept of anarcho-tyranny identifies a real phenomenon in how state power operates in advanced capitalist societies. The basic observation is correct. We simultaneously experience breakdown of social order in daily life while facing increasingly rigid control over political dissent and economic behavior. From a structural perspective, anarcho-tyranny isn't an accident or a failure of governance. It's a feature of how power maintains itself in societies with high inequality and declining legitimacy. When ruling classes can no longer provide material benefits to the majority of the population, they must rely increasingly on divide-and-conquer strategies to prevent unified opposition to their rule. The genius of this system is that it creates the appearance of state weakness while actually strengthening state control over the most important functions. Street crime and social disorder affect ordinary people's daily lives, creating demand for more policing and surveillance. Meanwhile, white-collar crime, corporate fraud, and systematic wage theft, crimes that actually transfer vastly more wealth, go largely unpunished because they serve elite interests.
This is a term coined by Sam Francis. We've used it on the show before. Increasingly, we live in a state of both anarchy and tyranny. And if you live in a major city, you know what this feels like. Anarcho-tyranny means if you go out and leave your belongings in your car will be broken into and your belongings will be stolen. If you drive through certain neighborhoods at night, you will be carjacked. Your car will be stolen out of your driveway. You will be followed home and held up at your home. You will be burglarized. It is like a state of anarchy. Simultaneously, if you drive 11 miles per hour over the speed limit, you're going to get a speeding ticket.
This description captures something real about the selective application of state power, but misses the systemic reasons behind it. The state apparatus focuses enormous resources on revenue generation through traffic violations, tax collection, and regulatory compliance for small businesses while allowing violent crime to flourish in certain areas. This isn't incompetence, it's a rational allocation of resources based on what serves power. Traffic enforcement generates revenue and maintains surveillance infrastructure. Tax compliance ensures steady income flows to state coffers. But solving violent crime in working-class neighborhoods doesn't serve elite interests in the same way. In fact, high crime rates in certain areas serve multiple functions for the ruling class. They justify expanded police budgets, keep working-class communities destabilized and unable to organize politically, and provide moral justification for harsh criminal justice policies that can be selectively applied. Nick's frustration is understandable, but his analysis stops at the symptom level without examining the underlying political economy that creates these conditions.
You're going to get hit with a major tax bill. You have to pay off your student loans. You have to pay high fees, high costs. You have to work for your money. Other people get welfare, food stamps, subsidized housing, subsidized phones, everything. You got to work for a living, and everything's getting more expensive all the time. Insurance is going up. Healthcare's going up. Taxes are going up. Housing costs are going up. Entertainment subscriptions are going up. The taxes on those things are going up. And you got to find a way to make it all work while wages are stagnant. Meanwhile, illegal immigrants go to the emergency room. They get their health care for free. They don't have to worry about insurance. They get subsidized housing. They don't have to worry about interest rates, insurance costs. They get SNAP. They get food assistance. They don't got to worry about the cost of groceries. It's on us. And we are the only ones expected to follow the law.
This section reveals how the anarcho-tyranny concept gets weaponized to serve elite interests rather than challenge them. Fuentes correctly identifies that different groups face different levels of law enforcement and social support, but he's been directed to blame downward rather than upward in the power hierarchy. The reality is that both native-born working-class people and immigrants are being squeezed by the same economic policies implemented by the same ruling class. Housing costs are rising because of financialization and speculation by Wall Street firms. Healthcare is unaffordable because of insurance company profits and pharmaceutical monopolies. Wages are stagnant because of deliberate policies to weaken labor organization and increase employer leverage. But rather than targeting the actual sources of these problems, landlord speculation, insurance company profiteering, corporate wage suppression, the anarcho-tyranny narrative channels anger toward populations who have the least power to change anything.
If a criminal comes to your house and tries to steal your car for the third time, and in a fit of rage you chase after him, however crazy it is, you go to jail for 60 years. The kids get let off the hook. You're on the subway, someone brandishes a knife, starts acting erratically. You leap into action, put him in a chokehold, he dies. You get your life destroyed. You get set up on a murder charge. Not these people that are pushing people in front of the subway every day, every week, all the time.
The Denver case referenced here illustrates perfectly how anarcho-tyranny functions to serve elite interests. The system allows conditions to deteriorate to the point where ordinary people are pushed to breaking points, then harshly punishes them when they respond predictably to those conditions. This serves multiple functions. It removes potentially troublesome individuals from society. It sends a message to others about the consequences of taking matters into their own hands, and it provides moral justification for expanded state power. What's missing from this analysis is recognition that the same system that fails to prevent car theft also fails to address the economic desperation that drives people to steal cars in the first place. The ruling class benefits from both the crime and the harsh punishment. Crime keeps working-class communities destabilized, and harsh punishment keeps the prison-industrial complex profitable while preventing any organized response to systemic problems. Nick's focus on individual criminal responsibility obscures the structural forces that create the conditions for both crime and vigilante responses. High inequality, economic desperation, social breakdown, these aren't natural phenomena. They're the predictable results of specific policy choices made by identifiable people with clear interests.
And you really need one or the other. If it were anarchy, you would have chaos. But at least vigilantism would fill the gap that law enforcement left. If you had a total state of anarchy, you could say it's pretty chaotic out here, but at least we have a higher degree of freedom.
Nick presents anarcho-tyranny as an unintended consequence of failed governance rather than a deliberate strategy of social control. The choice isn't between anarchy and tyranny, it's between systems that serve elite interests and systems that serve popular interests.
We can defend ourselves with lethal force. We can look after our own interests. We can gang up as a community, as a militia. We can find a way to make anarchy work. It's chaotic, but it's free. And tyranny. Things are a lot less free, and you're worried about surveillance, and probably you might get picked up by the government. But at least the streets are safe. At least, like in China, you don't live in fear of walking the streets at night, because although the government's oppressive, there's a benefit there too. You don't have to worry about those things. There's no crime. We get the worst of both worlds. We're not safe. It's not peaceful. Crime is out of control. The crimes don't even get solved. So it's complete chaos, but we are disallowed from doing anything about it. Vigilantes, good Samaritans are punished. Militias are outlawed. White identity politics might as well be a crime. Even stick up for white people, try to look out for them. It's a DOJ civil rights case. And if you try to defend your life or anything like that, you're the one that's going to jail. You still got to pay your taxes at the end of the year. You still got to go to work on time. You still got to get on the highway, which has become a death trap. We are now a multiracial empire. It's got to be governed like an empire now. It's either got to be governed like a confederation or an empire, but this is no longer a republic. Fuck all that. People talk about a republic if you can keep it. How do I translate republic into Cantonese? How do I translate republic into Igbo? How do I translate republic into Urdu? Can somebody get a translator here, please? There's a story last week. Guy in Denver, Colorado, they try to steal his car 3 times. On the 3rd time, the guy snaps. He gets in his car, he chases them, he kills one of them. They put him in jail for 54 years. Now you say that's a crazy reaction. You don't get in your car and chase somebody shooting out of the car. That's insane. But we've been pushed to this point. It didn't start that way. It didn't start that way the first time that guy had his car almost get stolen. It didn't happen the second time that guy almost got his car stolen. It happened the 3rd time. And you want to know why it happened? Because the first time, I'm sure this guy lost his shit. I'm sure he was terrified. His wife was terrified. He's paying a lot of money for this house. He works a job. You work too hard to have to worry about your piece of shit Elantra being stolen and your life being in jeopardy. So what do? You call the cops. And you know what they do? They show up and they say, we can do nothing for you. Well, file a report online, they say. They do fucking nothing. Nothing. And it never gets better. And it's traumatic. I'm sure this guy's kept awake at night. This guy maybe starts carrying a gun, maybe buys a gun. He's worried. We're not used to living like this. It happens a second time. What do you think he does the second time? Loses his shit again, out of his mind, calls the cops. This is the second time. What is going on? 3rd time? It's go time. Get in the car, put the seatbelt on. Motherfucker, it's go time. Somebody dies. 54 years in prison. It's his fault? What's the responsibility of the police to enforce the laws? What's the responsibility of these fucking people not to steal cars? How many times do you almost get your car stolen? Do you get a gun pointed in your face? How many times does your home get invaded before you say, you know what? I'm gonna be the solution. We've seen countless videos of bystanders pushed in front of trains, stabbed in the neck. For nothing. Now, they wanted us to abolish the police, and look what happened. After they looted the phone store, the liquor store, they told us abolish the police, and look what that accomplished. Now we live in fear. Now the cops do nothing. Now the criminals and the opportunists have free reign, and if we try to stop them, we go to jail. They don't go to jail, we go to jail. There should be a revolution at that point. And these cock-sucking FBI agents, they're gonna create Telegram group chats to entrap 18-year-olds that post a fucking 4chan meme. Hey, pigs, why don't you arrest the fucking criminals? We've all seen that. Netflix documentaries, undercover operations, sting operations. They're more worried about 8chan and 4chan and fucking active clubs. They're more worried about kids getting radicalized on YouTube. If you don't want a revolution, do your fucking job. You don't want a revolution? Start arresting the people that don't pay the taxes, don't follow the laws. It's enough to make anybody go crazy. It's enough to make anybody lose their minds. I'm sure that guy in Denver, Colorado, he was probably a normal guy, probably thought I was some racist. Then a couple of nigs, then a couple of thugs tried to steal his car 3 times. Different story. Different story. I'm sure that black guy that was drunk with his girlfriend in downtown Chicago after the concert, I'm sure he thought I was detestable. Until he was bleeding out on the sidewalk for no reason. We elect Donald Trump, and what does he do? Crack down on anti-Semitism. Really? That's the problem in the country? This country's going to hell. Supply chains are breaking down. Interest rates are going too high. Stagflation's imminent. We need is a coalition of the willing. Deport the illegals, close the border, throw these fucking thugs in jail, prosecute these corrupt politicians that have made this happen. You can deal with the demographic stuff later. That's a difficult question. We need now is a coalition of the willing to set these things right. And the Trump administration can't get enough of them. The biggest immigrant groups are Chinese and Indians, and the Trump administration can't roll out the red carpet. You know, Ben Shapiro said, I don't give a damn about the browning of America. Oh, who the fuck wants to live like this? I said it the other night, people work too hard. People work so hard in their jobs. Everybody knows times are tough now. People want to enjoy the amenities. They want to enjoy the weather. And what do we have to deal with? Bullshit. Why won't the cops arrest them? They arrest us? It's insane. I'm going to get a ticket for, a right on red. I'm going to get a ticket for you're 15 over. These people, they're driving stolen cars through storefront windows, stealing hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of merchandise and then fleeing the cops. They don't even chase them. Really?
Ruling classes in declining imperial societies face a fundamental legitimacy crisis. They can no longer provide broad-based prosperity or meaningful democratic participation, so they must rely on more sophisticated forms of social control to maintain power. Anarcho-tyranny serves this function perfectly. By allowing social disorder to flourish in working-class communities while maintaining strict control over political and economic dissent, the system creates conditions where people demand more state power rather than less. The chaos becomes the justification for expanded surveillance, militarized policing, and authoritarian governance. The actual sources of social breakdown, financialization of housing, corporate wage suppression, destruction of labor organizations, cutting of public services, remain completely protected from political challenge. The same business interests that profit from importing cheap labor also profit from the social instability that cheap labor creates, and they profit again from selling security services and prison contracts to manage that instability. Nick is willing to criticize street criminals and immigration policies, but not the economic system that creates mass desperation or the political system that serves wealthy donors rather than popular interests. This is why anarcho-tyranny narratives are allowed to flourish in certain media spaces while genuine anti-capitalist analysis is marginalized. They serve the crucial function of channeling legitimate anger away from systemic solutions and toward individual or cultural explanations that don't threaten ruling class interests. More aggressive policing would expand the tyranny side of the equation without addressing any of the underlying causes of social disorder. Vigilante violence would provide justification for even harsher state crackdowns while leaving economic exploitation completely untouched. What's needed instead is analysis that connects street-level social breakdown to the political economy that produces it. Housing speculation creates homelessness, wage suppression creates desperation, social service cuts create instability, and political exclusion creates anomie. The reality is that any meaningful solutions would require challenging the very power structures that benefit from current arrangements, and those power structures will never voluntarily relinquish control. The fantasy of democratic reform assumes that elites will somehow allow their own wealth and power to be democratically redistributed, which ignores every lesson of history about how ruling classes actually behave when threatened. This is where both liberal reformist thinking and much of the left becomes completely divorced from reality. They propose solutions: democratic control over housing, wealth redistribution, corporate accountability, that would require the very people who benefit from the current system to vote for their own dispossession. It's not going to happen through electoral politics or peaceful reform movements. Ruling classes don't give up power because you vote correctly or organize community meetings. They give up power when they're forced to by circumstances beyond their control: economic collapse, military defeat, revolutionary upheaval, or internal elite conflicts that spiral out of their control. The idea that billionaires will suddenly develop a conscience and submit to democratic oversight is pure delusion. Nick's instinct toward more direct action actually contains more political realism than the typical response of voting harder and organizing community meetings. Fuentes recognizes, at some level, that the system isn't going to reform itself through normal democratic processes. This reveals the fundamental trap that ordinary people find themselves in under late-stage capitalism. The system genuinely is rigged against them. Democratic reform is ineffective at challenging real power, and yet the alternatives being offered to them only serve to strengthen their own oppression. The real question isn't how to restore order through democratic participation, but how to recognize that current arrangements serve elite interests so completely that any meaningful change would require their complete displacement rather than their reform.